Listen up, everybody. Sonic Team is actually cooking. This isn't Sonic movie stuff. This is actual Sonic game information. You guys remember that Sonic makes games? But yes, we have some really good news about Sonic and Shadow, of course, Generations. And it's giving us a lot of insight about what to expect from Sega in the future and what they're currently working on right now. Lots of good stuff to talk about. So before we get into the news, make sure to subscribe to the channel with all notifications. I'll give you a second. And let's get into it. So the first bit of exciting news before we get into the actual good news is that we just got an icon for Sonic and Shadow Generations, which was spotted on the Steam database. So you guys see it right here. There's actually nothing really that surprising about it. So it looks like we have what looks to be a new render of Shadow. I don't know if it's this has been spotted before. Obviously, we recognize the first two renders of classic Sonic and modern Sonic. This is from Generations. We have like the cover of Generations on the bottom here, and if you look up top, it looks like that background of what looks to be Westopolis. So cool news, but of course people are already hating. It says if this doesn't show how cheap the game is, most likely then I don't know what will. So yeah, somehow this little icon that presumably I think is something that you just like click on, you know, like on your desktop icon. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, if I'm not mistaken. This is making people in the Sonic fan base somehow upset. So I don't listen. I'm at a loss for words at this point. Anyways, let's get into the good news. So it seems like we're taking nothing but W's as Sonic fans. We've been on this trajectory ever since like 2020, where the first Sonic movie has released, and it seems like we've only been going up ever since. I know some people hate the term step in the right direction because it hasn't been all perfect. It's not unanimous across the board. There's still some divisiveness amongst the fan base, which could always be a thing. But it seems like we have been getting consistently better product than we've been getting in certain points of Sonic's history. Things are looking pretty good for us, and it looks like today's news is going to further affirm that. For added context, you can actually watch this video right here, but we talked about the great news for Sonic fans and how Sega is focusing more on quality for the Sonic franchise as well as planning on bringing us yearly releases for the IP. According to leakers like Midori, who is the most accurate and reliable Sonic leaker we have in the community, Sega is forming something that you could call like a super Sonic team, if you will. Quality for mainline releases seems to be a focus, and there's going to be a lot of internal and external testing for future games. Sonic Frontiers is one of the highest selling 3D Sonic games of all time, so it's safe to say that Sega is already working on the sequel, and we have confirmation of that. Most importantly, the sales and success of the Sonic movies and Frontiers has further demonstrated that Sonic is a worthwhile investment for the company. Fast forward today, we bring good news about the new Sonic and Shadow Generations game, which is the newest mainline installment. I guess it's mainline. I don't know. I think it's going to be something like a Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury kind of situation, a remaster of a beloved game with a new twist on the existing formula. I'm not really sure, but that's kind of what it seems like. So I call this a mainline game, whatever you will. Or we're going to get a deep dive into Shadow the Hedgehog's backstory, so it looks like it's going to be cool. Rest assured, here's the big news that we need to know about. So here it is. Someone asked Midori, our beloved leaker in the community. This person said, do you know anything about Sonic and Shadow Generations? Or since when did it start to be developed? And this is what Midori had to say, which is actually pleasing the fan base. She said, I think it is almost 2 years ago, but development is complete now and Sega is moving on to different projects. So we're presumably, I would say, about 4 to 5 months away from the release of this game, and it's really good news to know that this game is actually finished with development and Sega has moved on to different projects, which is why I'm saying that Sonic Team is absolutely cooking. It seems like this game, compared to a lot of other Sonic games, is actually in a good state of development. And what I mean by this is it doesn't seem like it's being plagued by crunches or deadlines or anything like that, similar to a game. As much as we love Sonic Frontiers, at least I do personally, I know not everyone in the fan base is 100% unanimous on this game. It seems like it's not going to suffer the same fate that Frontiers had, which was somewhat of a lack of polish. And like I said in previous videos, this game was supposed to release a year before it did. So the fact that they delayed this game to actually focus on quality and it still came out a bit unpolished for some, that just goes to show how screwed we may have been. But now that Sega is actually complete with Sonic and Shadow Generations, that means that they are currently cooking the brand new sequel to Sonic Frontiers, whatever it's going to be, their next open zone game. If there's one thing that Frontiers needed, it just needed a little bit more time, a little bit more money, and maybe a little bit more vision to make it truly the perfect Sonic game. It's still one of my favorites, but it truly could have been, with just a little bit more TLC, the best Sonic game of all time. When we got some good feedback from the fans, this person says, what? You're telling me this game is done and doesn't have to release for another 4 to 5 months? This is some Nintendo type of stuff. Like, usually Sonic games are finished 2 weeks before they come out, but this is getting my hopes up from a technical standpoint. This person says this is some Nintendo level quality control. If they're satisfied and moved on to other projects, there is no doubt that this game is what they wanted it to be, which is like the first in a decade for Sonic. This person says it shows a fundamental shift in how Sega is approaching the release schedule for Sonic in a very positive way. If this was Sega even just 2 or 3 years ago, the game would already be out by now with more issues than it would have had otherwise. I'm laughing at this one. This guy says a Sonic game is finished? It wasn't all great though. This person says, yeah, this sounds good if you've been with Sonic long enough. Nothing is truly good news until you sit and play the game on release and actually have no issues. Hey, listen, I understand. I get it. This person says, oh, so it's been done. Okay, that makes sense. So Sonic Team is mainly working on Frontiers 2 in-house, and that's probably the best news of it all. If development is finished, they have 4 to 6 months just for quality control, which is something Nintendo would do. Very happy to hear this. This person says, wait. Sega finished the game with enough time. The team is moving on to other projects before launch. Did Sega get their act together? This person says, so Sonic and Shadow Generation started development around when Frontiers was wrapping up and is finished. Sonic Team is most certainly locked in on their next open zone game now. This person says Sonic and Shadow Generations is now complete. Development started around 2 years ago. Sonic Team has moved on to other works. This is Nintendo-like levels of quality. Again, we're hearing Nintendo comparisons. For Sega to be this confident in the final product, it's time to get ready for another Sega proudly presents moment, referring to Sonic Mania. There is something very impressive with Sonic fans comparing this to Nintendo, actually giving Sonic the TLC that he needs to create a great game that's actually polished and not full of bugs. Sonic and Shadow Generations should be a slam dunk, and I'm saying it should be a slam dunk because you really do never know what's going to happen, but you already have one of the greatest Sonic games ever attached to this. I kind of think that's part of the reason why they put it in there, just to get the good review score, because everyone loves Generations. It's one of those games that is very non-divisive. It kind of does almost everything right. Assuming they don't completely butcher the first half of the game, which doesn't seem very likely because this game is being developed in-house as opposed to outsourcing to a different studio like Sonic Colors Ultimate. I would assume that they're going to get the gens portion right. It all comes down to what they do for the Shadow campaign. We'll see how long it even is. What if it's only like a couple levels? Hopefully it's a full-blown true campaign, almost as long as Generations, because Generations isn't even a long game to begin with. Development for Frontiers 2, or whatever the sequel is going to be called, we'll just call it Frontiers 2 for now, is already in progress. So this is not only good news for the upcoming game, it seems like Sega's confident and it seems like it's going to have time for bug fixing and polishing, but also it means that more time is being spent on the new mainline Sonic game, which is the sequel to Sonic Frontiers. Very good news about the Sonic franchise. If they can just outsource some of these smaller projects like Sonic Rumble and whatever other spin-offs that they have planned for the series to other studios and just focus on the mainline Sonic games, make them as quality as possible, give them all the money that they need, all the development manpower possible, and we are definitely in good hands. So Sonic Team is cooking. Very exciting to talk about this. Love yapping about Sonic. So let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comments.